You're the only one tethering me to this earth. A Smilin' Friends fanfiction readin'. Written and narrated by Precious Piece of Cheese. The link to the original fic will be in the description box below. Chapter 2 of 24. I hope you're happy in the end. Charlie struggled to open his eyes that were half glued shut by the sleepies that crusted around them. He squinted at the clock by Pim's TV, which declared that it was 10:50 a.m. The strong morning light pierced through the thin curtains in the living room. It was fortunate that they didn't have any plans until the evening, because Charlie felt like utter shit. Charlie attempted to get up from the couch, but as soon as he moved, he felt himself get dizzy. A thick sensation clogged in his throat, and a rock in his stomach. Fuck, he whispered to himself. The sensation was far from new or unexpected, but it sucked all the same. It was the only part of the ritual that wasn't welcome. Charlie finally gathered the will to rise from the couch to go to the bathroom, once the urge to piss outweighed the dizziness. He glanced over to the still sleeping Pim, trying to be careful to not disturb him. He lingered his gaze longer than he expected, taking in the peaceful image of Pim nuzzling against the pillow with a warm expression. Charlie hoped Pim was having pleasant dreams of singing pink and green witches. The walk to the bathroom felt like a million years. As soon as he began to walk, it was as if the room turned upside down, spinning out of control. Charlie gripped nearby furniture and the wall as he forced himself forward, reeling back the urge to vomit on Pim's clean carpet. Pim wasn't happy with him the last time he did so. Charlie could barely keep himself up when he stood to pee, gripping the countertop for dear life, slumping over. The moment he stopped peeing, he fell to his knees and vomited in the toilet. Fortunately, it was only a short spell, but it repulsed him all the same. He gingerly wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and curled up on the cooling tile floor, resting his head on a fluffy pink bath mat. It was always that Charlie had a higher tolerance but horrendous hangovers, while Pim had a low tolerance but light hangovers. Charlie vomited every single time, while Pim rarely did. No one could figure out why, but again, it was the ritual. Charlie curled up on the bathroom floor in pain, and Pim waking up with only a headache. In that very moment, Charlie wondered if God blessed Pim with such an ability as to not taint some of the only times he felt joy. That one thought catapulted Charlie back to last night, and he began to weep quietly, hiking his knees up to his chest. Charlie almost wished he blacked out so he wouldn't remember everything Pim confessed, because it hurt too much. He wondered if Pim even remembered. Pim was more prone to blacking out than Charlie was. He would need to ask him later. After an unknown length of time, Charlie eased himself up to wash his face and brush his teeth. He considered Pim's to be a second home because he had a toothbrush, a stick of deodorant, Axe body spray, and a bar of soap that had taken permanent residency on Pim's sink counter. Pim would even replace his toothbrush sometimes and buy him replacement products if he ran low on something. Charlie never asked him to, it was just what Pim did. At one point, he even got an acrylic tray to house all of Charlie's things. Charlie glanced over at Pim's side of the sink, which had a large acrylic organizer that held his skincare products for a multi-step routine, shaving products, a bottle of Bath & Body Works Strawberry Pound Cake Body Lotion, and a bottle of Ariana Grande Cloud Body Spray. Alan and Glep teased Pim over wearing women's fragrances, but Pim retaliated by saying that men should be allowed to enjoy sweet scents. Charlie never said anything because he liked that he thought about Pym whenever he smelled anything sweet. It suited him well. Lingering on the thought of Pym drew back another wave of tears. Even just looking at the items on the sink made him emotional. He felt weirdly guilty about doing it, but he took Pym's body spray and sniffed the nozzle to have a deep inhale of Pym's signature scent. His nose filled with the warm marshmallow scent of the spray, and he felt closer to Pym. He couldn't explain it, but it felt like Pym was giving him a hug. He quickly put it away, fearing that Pym would be creeped out if he knew what he did. Feeling better and less nauseous, Charlie returned to the living room to find Pym sitting upright on the couch on his phone. "Good morning, Charlie." "Hey, man. How'd you hold up?" "I have a bit of a headache and I'm still tired, but I'm swell otherwise." "I just finished puking in the toilet." "Oh dear, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." The two sat in momentary silence, anxiety building up in Charlie's chest. "Hey, so, do you remember last night?" Charlie finally asked. Pym's face immediately fell. "Yeah. Sorry about that." "No, man. Don't be sorry. It's okay." "I shouldn't have put all of that on you." "No, really. Don't apologize." "Can you just forget about it for me, please?" Pym's face was twisted in emotional pain. "Look, Pym," Charlie put an arm around his friend. "I don't want you to have to suppress your emotions around me. You don't have to pretend. You can tell me anything, and it'll be okay." Pym looked away. "I just don't want to be an emotional burden to you." "Never." Pym gazed up to Charlie with wet eyes. "You're not just saying that because you pity me, right? I don't want you to feel sorry for me." "No, I just genuinely don't want you to suffer anymore. I want to help you." Charlie sniffed, trying to keep his tears at bay. But you already do, Charlie." Pym hugged his arm. Charlie pulled Pym into a tight hug. They sat in heavy silence for a few moments. "So, what's the plan for the rest of the day?" Charlie pivoted the topic to avoid crying in front of Pym. He pulled away from the embrace. "We're seeing Wicked, remember? It's gonna be epic!" Pym bumped his fist in the air and beamed. Charlie smiled warmly. There was a shred of genuine Pym joy that he loved to see. "Yeah, I know, but what about before then? We still have a lot of time in between." "I don't know. How do you feel? Do you want to stay here or go home?" Charlie pondered that question for a moment. As much as he wanted to spend as much time with Pym as possible, he really needed to be alone to digest his thoughts for a bit. Even just looking at him was brewing up those emotions again. He didn't want Pym to know the extent of his mind war and the flurry of conflicted emotions. "I was thinking that I should go home and rest and then pick you up later." "Yeah, I should probably rest up too. I don't want to fall asleep during the movie." "All right, sounds good. I'll come over at 5?" "Sure thing." "Okay, cool. I'll catch you later then?" Charlie gave Pym an awkward fist bump, made sure he had everything, and left. As soon as he stepped out of Pym's door, he felt the weight of his absence. He sighed heavily. Would he ever fully recover from last night? Maybe he just needed to rest. On the way home, he went through Dunkin' drive-thru and got a breakfast sandwich and a coffee upon realizing how starving he was. He forgot that it was noon at this point. Charlie sat alone eating at his computer, watching some random YouTube video in his worn-out gaming chair. He wasn't paying attention to anything on the screen, only consumed by his thoughts. It felt like he was cut open and raw, with the outside air scraping against his exposed organs. He was violently uncomfortable with how Pim's confession made him feel because it just wasn't like him to feel so emotionally fragile. Charlie wasn't the emotional type, nor did he cry. He was a self-proclaimed alpha male. It just wasn't what he did. It felt like he cried more in the past 12 hours than he did in the past 3 years. YouTube autoplayed a meme video compilation where the first meme was Wicked related, and Charlie cried again. Charlie clenched his teeth in frustration with his fragility. How was he supposed to carry on normally tonight if anything that made him think of Pim made him cry? Why was he doing this? Why now, after 7 years of friendship, was he acting like this over Pim? Pim shared his traumas before. His childhood, his family, his insecurities, the works. But what was it about this that was different? Charlie wasn't about to unpack that, so he grabbed his bong from nearby and lit it up. He needed to calm down. Charlie let the YouTube videos play aimlessly while he smoked weed and drank his coffee. It helped numb him out a bit, but he feared that nothing could truly shake what he was feeling. He turned off his computer and spun his chair to face the window, propping his feet on the sill. He nestled his bong in his lap, taking another hit. He sat in silence. Charlie rarely existed in silence. He needed noise, whether it was music, videos, or talking. He even had to sleep with a fan on to generate noise. He hated how silence made him feel, yet he sat in it. Silent tears fell down his face, but he didn't fight them or chastise himself for it. I just want you to be happy, he found himself whispering. Oh, how ironic it was that someone whose job was it to make others happy was unhappy himself. Charlie felt like that applied to himself too. Was he happy? He could be better, but he also could be much worse off. He had a home, a car, a stable job, and enough money to live. That was a lot more than most people had. Charlie thought back to what Pim told him, that he was the only one tethering him to this earth. Out of everything he said, that was what stood out the most. Not because it was the most shocking or depressing, but because it was the most true to him. Charlie never thought of it that way, but he could say the same thing about Pim. What would he do without Pim? He was his best friend, his rock, his comfort, the only person he could trust with anything important. At this point, it was inconceivable for Pim to not be in his life. The fact that Pim felt like his presence wouldn't be missed in the world was genuinely horrifying to Charlie. Dizzied by his own thoughts, Charlie put his bong away, threw out his trash, and climbed into bed to try to get a couple hours of sleep in before he left. He just needed to turn off his brain for a bit. Charlie woke up from his nap hours later in a state of distress, breathing heavily and sweating. His eyes frantically darted around his desolate room, as if the images of his nightmare manifested into reality. He snatched his phone and immediately called Pim. Every ring felt like being taunted by Satan himself. "Hello, Charlie." "Pim, are you okay?" "Yes. Why do you ask?" "I mean, is it okay if I come a little earlier?" Uh, sure. You are welcome to come whenever, as long as you don't mind waiting for me to get ready." "Okay, cool. I'll be there soon." "Okay. Bye, Charlie." Pim hung up before him, leaving Charlie alone, barely processing what he just did. He had a nightmare where Pim jumped off a cliff into an ocean and died. Charlie could still see the dark, jagged rocks under the cliff, with the midnight waves crashing against them from behind his eyelids. The grave face that Pim gave him moments before jumping was going to haunt him for a while. He sighed heavily and forced himself out of bed, both relieved that the dream was fake and also embarrassed that he thought it was real. He opted to get ready and leave now, since being with his own thoughts any longer would probably not be ideal. He showered, brushed his teeth, washed his face, and went to put on new clothes. He did the sniff test on his orange hoodie, and deemed it unsuitable for further wear until it was washed. He rummaged through his sparse closet to find something clean, until he spotted a long-sleeved green shirt that he forgot he owned. He pondered over the shirt for a bit. Charlie barely knew anything about Wicked, but he did know that there was a green witch and a pink witch. Pim was pink, naturally, so would Charlie wearing the green shirt mean that he would match the theme? Charlie never dressed up for anything. Hell, he hasn't worn a Halloween costume in 10 years. But would dressing up for the movie make Pim happy? Pim loved dressing for occasions, and he could count on Pim wearing something to match the theme. Just wearing a green shirt isn't really a costume at all, so Charlie opted to wear it. Charlie checked the time. It was 4, an hour before he was expected to show up. Pim was 10 minutes away. He wanted to show up earlier like he previously promised, but not so early that it was burdensome to their plans. He decided to stop by the store to buy snacks for the movie to kill some time. He drove to the Dollar General that was down the street from him, where he usually went to pick up snacks and random things. He bought a Monster and a blue bag of Takis for himself, and a Sprite and a Nerd's rope for Pim. As he was approaching the checkout line, he spotted something out of the corner of his eye. Off to the side of the registers was a bin of clearance Halloween items. It was well into November at this point, so it was obvious by the 80% off sign that they were basically giving away their leftover stock. Charlie rummaged through the bin in hopes of finding some spooky piece that he could display in his room. What he found instead stopped him in his tracks. A black witch hat and a princess crown. Hands shaking, he picked them up, feeling like this was some weird fate that was calling out to him. Pim would love the gesture. It would make him happy. Throwing away all of his previous grudges against costumes, he added them to his basket. It would just be this once. Do it for Pim, he thought to himself. Charlie was nervous approaching Pim's door. He put on his witch hat, carrying everything else in a bag. He was worried that his gesture wasn't going to be seen as genuine, thinking that Pym would think he was only doing it for pity or sympathy. The last thing Charlie wanted Pym to think was that he was trying too hard and being disingenuous. He tried to push those thoughts away and let himself into Pym's apartment with his key. He walked into the living space, but Pym wasn't there. "Hey, Pym, I'm here," Charlie yelled. "I'm in the bathroom, Charlie. I'll be out in a bit," Pym called back. Feeling slightly awkward standing alone in a place that wasn't his, he set the bag down on the table and wandered around the living room. The most endearing aspect of Pym's home was how obviously Pym-ish it was. It was clean and tidy, but it definitely had that lived-in feel. His TV was situated within a large white entertainment center, where all of his video games, CDs, and movies lived, on the flanking built-in shelving. A couple of game consoles, a DV/Blu-ray player, and a CD player were nestled underneath the TV. His couch was light gray, and pillows and blankets were scattered about in an organized way. "Hello, Charlie!" Pym came out of the bathroom. He wore a black wicked zip-up hoodie and a white Ariana Grande shirt underneath. Upon registering what Charlie was wearing, he stood in the doorway to the living space, staring up at him with disbelief. Charlie, with his face covered with a deep orange flush, stood frozen in place, unsure of what to read Pym's reaction as. "You dressed up as Elphaba?" At a loss for words, Charlie silently went to the bag, pulled out the crown, and presented it to Pym. With his hands sweaty and shaky, he carefully placed the crown on Pym's head, careful not to touch his exposed nerve ending. "I saw this at the store and thought of you." A deep pink blush dusted Pym's cheeks, and he gingerly touched the crown. "You didn't have to do that." "But I wanted to," Charlie said quickly. Pym was silent, but his gaze was worth a million words. His huge eyes appeared even bigger, and it was as if the heavens themselves were encased in his irises, glowing and twinkling with unmistakable admiration. Charlie was both eased with his decision, and also on the brink of tears again. For as long as he had known Pym, he never looked at him like that before. It almost terrified him. "I also brought snacks." Charlie returned to the bag, taking things out, desperate to pull himself out of Pym's loaded gaze. "Ooh, nerd's rope." "I can share my Takis if you want some." "Can we get popcorn, though? I want the bucket." "Why do you specifically want the paper bucket?" "No, they have special plastic wicked buckets." "Okay, I get it now." Charlie chuckled warmly. "Do you want to head out now?" "Yay!" Pym was practically vibrating with excitement. Charlie knew that it was genuine, too, which warmed his soul. They climbed into Charlie's car and drove off to the theater. The theater was fairly busy for a late Sunday afternoon. They checked in with their pre-purchased tickets and went to the food line to get a bucket of popcorn. There were other people there that were dressed in the Wicked theme, some more than others, so Charlie didn't feel as self-conscious as he otherwise would have felt. Pym was practically radiating when the theater employee handed him his pink Glinda popcorn bucket. "What do you think I should put in here when we're done with it?" Pym asked. They walked into their theater room and took their assigned seats near the middle. The room was already fairly full, even though the previews hadn't started yet. "You should fill it with alcohol and try to chug it," Charlie joked. Pim laughed. "Or fill it with ice and put bottles in it like a cooler." "You should do that for next week." "The chug or the cooler?" "Both. You could make some mean jungle juice in that thing." They both laughed, but immediately silenced once the house lights went down and the screen played the previews. Charlie occasionally pointed out which movies they should see in the future. Pim was actually bouncing in his seat. Once the movie actually began, Pim was completely transfixed. He held onto the popcorn for dear life, absently picking at his nerd's rope, eyes glued to the spectacle in front of him. Charlie tried to focus on the movie, but he couldn't take his eyes off of Pim. Pim moved his mouth along with the words of the songs, with a glimmer in his eyes that replicated that of a small child looking at a Christmas tree full of presents. The glow of the screen softly illuminated Pim's face, subtly reflecting off the plastic gems on his crown. His smile was glued to his face, growing more euphoric and giddy as the movie progressed. It was truly a beautiful sight to behold. Charlie wished he could bottle up that image of Pim and keep it. He wanted to stop time right there and then, so Pim would be in an eternal state of pure wonder. He wanted Pim to stay there forever, immune from the anxieties and traumas that plagued him, lost in this fantasy world that he loved so dear. If only Pim could feel this way every day. But alas, moments of such bliss were fleeting, just like everything else in life. Silent tears streaked down Charlie's face. It was time for the final scene, defying gravity. Charlie only knew this because Pim spoke about it before, saying that the first part of the two-movie series ended on that song. It was also one of Pim's favorite musical songs. Charlie was as transfixed on Pim as Pim was to the screen. Pim was overtaken with emotions, moving his mouth to the words as his own tears streamed down his cheeks. Pim, not averting his eyes from the screen, reached out to lay his small hand on top of Charlie's large one. Charlie's heart jumped to his throat at the action, but sat with the warm touch and all the heavy emotions he carried within him. If you had made it to the end of this chapter, thank you so much for listening. This is weird because, like, obviously this whole chapter is, like, Wicked themed, like, it's, like, the whole plot's, like, centered around it. But you know what's kind of crazy is that I've never seen Wicked before. It's so weird because, like, people in my comments were like, "Oh my God, I love that you reference Wicked because I love it so much." And I'm like, I'm glad you do because I've never seen it myself. I know I should, like, I want to watch it, like, someday. Like, I do. But I just never seen it. Because, like, the reason why, like, it's in this chapter and, like, it's, like, referenced in other chapters is because at the time that I wrote this chapter, Wicked was, like, a brand new thing. So I kept seeing it online, and I'm like, oh, that looks like something Pim would like, so I might as well, like, write it in the chapter because in this story, Pim likes musical theater and stuff. So the whole thing with Charlie choosing to, like, basically dress up to go to the movies with Pim, so kind of like the thought behind that, and besides, like, it's Charlie's, like, making a nice gesture towards Pim, but I feel like to me it's a little bit more than that because I kind of pulled from the season one episode A Silly Halloween Special where Charlie had like stated that it's like I don't dress up for Halloween because you never know what's going to be offensive in 10 years and I don't want to get canceled. But I felt like for this chapter, like what if Charlie did something like actually out of his comfort zone just to make him happy? Especially like this is like the day after like the first chapter and like when Pim confessed his like feel his I say confessed his feelings as if he made a love confession, but he didn't. But when like he confessed his trauma pretty much, and then like after that, Charlie's like, I will do this for Pim because I think it'll be make him happy. So it's like I specifically wanted like a canon tie-in to Charlie's motivations here because like yes, he has canonically stated that he doesn't like doing this thing, but what if he like puts that aside just to make Pim happy? Obviously, I took the chapter title from Defying Gravity. I specifically chose I Hope You're Happy in the end, and kind of like Charlie is like saying that to Pim type of thing. Because like when Glinda and Alphaba like sing that to each other, it kind of feels like a similar type of thing. I specifically wanted to one tie the song in because it does play a part in the plot because when they have their touching moment at the end of the chapter, it is during this song in the movie. So I'm like, you know what, fuck it, we might as well do that, right? But also kind of like tying in the actual like meaning of the song into the plot and like Charlie's feelings. Yeah, so that's what I thought. So subscribe for the next chapter, and I hope to see you then. Bye.